Betrayer. In truth, it was I who was betrayed.
Hello everyone! The story of Illidan Stormrage is a big one, and part of his story, the War of the Ancients, has been altered by time travel. That means that some events changed, so we have multiple versions of a story. So I've been asking around, and apparently the recollection of the War of the Ancients trilogy is the version best to go with. So to understand the story, let me first explain how the trilogy begins. Sometime after Warcraft 3, the bronze dragon Nosdormu got caught in a time anomaly, and it took everything of his power to save the world from being destroyed by this vortex. This meant that he was trapped, and he desperately made contact with the red dragon Coriastras, also known as Kresis, and he sent him visions of what was going on and that he needed help. Kresis realized that he would need some help with this mission, so he recruited his old friend Ronan to help him out. This time anomaly did not go unnoticed, and even the Horde realized that something was going on. A shaman named Kalfar, he told Thrall about a vision he had, and Thrall sent Bruxigar together with Geskal to investigate the situation. As the orcs made their way, they saw a dragon in the sky, and they expected that this had something to do with the visions, so they decided to follow it. What they didn't know was that this would lead them straight to the anomaly, which by this time had turned into a massive vortex. Ronan and Kresis, they were already sucked up by it, and slowly it made its way towards Bruxigar. Bruxigar told his companion to run, but Geskal decided to hide between the rocks, and the outside of the vortex utterly destroyed him. Bruxigar did all he could to run away, but he too was sucked up and sent back 10,000 years into the past, to a time where Queen Azshara and the Highborn ruled the Night Elves and were dabbling with magic beyond their understanding. This magical power was granted to them by the Well of Eternity, and by messing around with it, they drew the attention from the Burning Legion and their master Sargeras himself. Sargeras wanted to come to Azeroth to conquer it, like he had conquered many planets before, and Azshara was exhilarated. She saw the coming of Sargeras as a way to make the world as perfect as she was, and she was willing to do anything necessary to make this happen. Her advisor Xavius was the one who had made first contact with Sargeras, and he was put on the task to empower the portal and get Sargeras to Azeroth. That's the background of the story, and this brings us to Illidan. Illidan Stormrage, twin brother of Malfurion Stormrage, grew up together with his brother and Tyrande Whisperwind in the Night Elf Society. Illidan, unlike his brother, was born with amber eyes, and at the time, this was seen by the Night Elves as a sign that a person was destined for greatness. Even with these eyes, Illidan had a lot of trouble finding his destiny, while Tyrande Whisperwind, their longtime friend, she had found her calling with the Priest of Elune. Even his brother Malfurion had found his destiny under the teachings of the demigod Cenarius, who showed him the way of the druids. Illidan tried to follow the same path, but he never had the patience for it. He preferred the ancient way of his people, the way of the arcane, powers granted to the Night Elves by the Well of Eternity. Kresis, Ronan and Bruxigar entering this time period did not go unnoticed. Xavius had his troops scout for Ronan and Kresis, while Bruxigar was captured by the Moonguard, placed in a cage and put on display until the elders had decided what to do with him. Tyrande saw Bruxigar in his cage, and she saw that food had been given to him, but someone his size surely would require more substance. The guards told her that there was no order given to feed the prisoner, and that it was a bad idea, but Tyrande, she believed that giving food or a drink should not require an order. Illidan saw her giving this food to Brox and talking with him, and he lashed out. He shot a spell that burned the flesh from Bruxigar's fingers, since Illidan thought that Tyrande was in danger. This was not the case, of course. Bruxigar could hardly move in his cage, and Tyrande was pissed. She told Illidan to turn around and step away so she could heal Bruxigar's fingers. Elune granted her this gift. She healed the wounds, but doing this left her drained. She told Illidan that she would rejoin her sisters, and she left him behind. Now it was Illidan who was pissed. For hours he had waited outside the temple to talk with Tyrande, to tell her about his feelings for her, and his moment was ruined. He became so angry that Bruxigar's cage flared red and the orc began to scream in pain. Luckily Illidan managed to regain control and he removed his spell that he had cast, and it was even more fortunate that the guards had protected Bruxigar's cage with their own spells. If they hadn't done that, then Illidan's fury would have slain the orc. Malfurion's training as a druid, as well as having strange dreams about the palace, had him believe that something was up, that something was going on, and it wouldn't be for the better of their people. When Tyrande showed him Brox, and Brox told him his story, he realized that Brox coming to their world had something to do with his dreams and what was going on at the palace. The elves would interrogate Broxigar the very next day, so Malfurion had to act fast to get the orc free. He asked his brother for help, and Illidan agreed, although Malfurion believed that it wasn't really to help his twin brother, but mostly because Tyrande had asked him. Illidan could never refuse Tyrande, and he used his magic to unlock the cage and free the orcs from his chains. They planned on leaving Illidan and Tyrande behind so that they couldn't be blamed for the orcs' escape, but things didn't go exactly as planned. Lord Ravencrest, master of Blackrock Hold, he was on a mission to find Broxigar and bring him back. He recognized Illidan, and he knew that Illidan had studied the arts of magic, but he was not part of the Moon Guards. This meant that he was not restricted by the oaths that all Moon Guards have to take, and that he could be loyal to Ravencrest, so he asked Illidan if he would be willing to join him on this hunt. In truth, Illidan could hardly refuse an order from such a high-standing lord, but helping him could endanger his own brother. Nonetheless, Illidan joined with the plan to please Ravencrest, while at the same time keeping his brother out of jail. Being noticed by such a high lord as Ravencrest is a big deal, and Illidan wanted to prove himself. He got that shot when they came across a group of butchered night elves. Unknown to them was that the Houndmaster Hakar had sent his own fellhounds to hunt. Fellhounds are capable of draining magic out of living beings, and the hounds that had taken out this group, they were still around. One of them attacked Ravencrest, disarmed him, and was about to take his life, but Illidan used his magic to enchant the blade and kill the demon. This earned him praise from Ravencrest, and as they returned to town, Illidan was full of pride about his achievement. He thought that he had finally found his destiny serving Ravencrest, and he was so excited to tell his story that he didn't see Tyrande's horror and fear as he told about the dead bodies they'd found. He kissed Tyrande's hand and he told her that he wanted to be worthy of her, and soon he would be. What happened next was that Malfurion and Broxigar, they reached Malfurion's teacher Cenarius, and there they teamed up with Ronan. Croesus had earlier been teleported away to his fellow dragons, so he didn't join this little group. As they planned to travel to Malfurion's house, they were surrounded by night elves, captured, taken to Ravenhold, where they infiltrated Malfurion's mind and extracted the truth. They saw his visions, his dreams, his doubts towards the queen, but they simply couldn't believe it. They loved their queen Azora so much that they just flat out refused to believe that she would do anything to hurt them. Instead, they laid the blame at the Highborn and her advisor Savius, who they'd never trusted. The Night Elves took up arms and they prepared to rescue their queen, while at the palace they were still trying to summon Sargeras. They had managed to summon lesser demons, but for some reason the portal just wouldn't get strong enough. It was Queen Azora who came up with the idea to seal the Well of Eternity from all the other Night Elves and focus its powers on the portal. This left the Moon Guard and all the other Night Elves nearly powerless, but Illidan was still capable of casting spells, while Ronan nearly didn't feel the effect at all. He was from a different time period, so he knew how to draw magic out of the world itself, and Illidan was drawn to him. Malfurion had Cenarius as his Shando, his teacher, and now Illidan had found Ronan to take him to the next level of his craft. Now, in order to even have a fighting chance against the Legion, Malfurion realized that he would have to destroy the portal and open the Well of Eternity to the rest of his people. He used the Emerald Dream to infiltrate the palace, and he did his best, but Xavius had magical eyes, eyes capable of seeing Malfurion even in the Emerald Dream. He captured Malfurion's spirit in a magical bottle, while they continued to work on the portal. The Night Elves, led by Ravencrest, they fought valiantly against the demons, but the Moon Guard were not up to the task. Illidan saw how their leader was foolishly spreading their power, while he thought that they should just focus what little magic they had and direct it into powerful spells. He took command of the Moon Guard, had them placed in a position to amplify their magic, and he did terrible damage to the demons. Dark tentacles slashed them in two, the earth beneath their feet rumbled, and several burst into flames. Illidan looked to Ronan for his approval, and Ronan gave him a nod, but he realized that he would have to keep an eye on Illidan. Illidan had great potential, but his recklessness was a trap that could create of him a danger in its own way as deadly as the Burning Legion. Ronan would try to do his best to guide Illidan and make sure that his great deeds would be for the greater good. While they were fighting the Legion, Malfurion was still trapped. Crassus had found his way back to Broxigar and Tyrande while they were guarding Malfurion's body. He made contact with Malfurion's spirit and told him to find a possible weakness that he could exploit and use to escape. Malfurion had already searched for such a weakness, of course, but he had been unable to find it. Now he had Crassus backing up, a dragon, so he searched around, saw a minor crack in the spell, and he used it to escape. He then faced off against Xavius himself, and by combining his strength with Crassus, Broxigar, Tyrande, Azeroth itself, he managed to defeat the High Counselor and open up the well. This action did not only empower the magic wielders, all Night Elves were connected to the well, and as its powers were released, they were invigorated. A final push set the demons on the retreat, but they didn't have enough strength left to push them back to the capital. For leading the Moonguard, Illidan was made the official leader, and although the day had been won, the war was far from over. The day was won by the Night Elves, but the portal was restored, and Sargeras was pissed about their failure. He had already sent 2 powerful minions, Hakar and Manoroth, but apparently that wasn't enough. It was time to bring out the big guns, so he sent his Lieutenant Archimonde to lead the army and get him to Azeroth. Xavius was destroyed by Malfurion near the portal, and his spirit was taken by Sargeras. Failing the master does not come without a price, and it felt like Xavius had felt endless agony. However, Sargeras can also grant second chances, and he decided to improve and reform Xavius. Piece by piece he reformed the former Highborn, creating the first of the Satyrs, set on a mission to convert more to be like him and to serve Sargeras. At the Night Elf camp, they kept on fighting the Legion as they were trying to reach Zinazari and their queen. One moment they were pushing the Legion back, at another moment they were pushed back themselves. Crassus realized that they simply needed more help, so he wanted to reach the dragons. Together with Malfurion, they flew away on griffins, while the dragons themselves already hatched a plan to save the world. Neltharion the Earth Warden had convinced his fellow aspects to surrender a portion of their power and placed it within the Dragon Soul.
It is done. All have given that which must be given. I now seal the Dragon Soul forever.
That terrible glow. Should that be?
For it to be as it must, yes.
It is a weapon like no other. It must be like no other.
With this powerful device, they could rid the world of the Legion, but what they didn't know was that Neltharion was listening to the whispers of the old gods. They had made him paranoid and convinced him that he couldn't trust anyone and that he should rule the world. With Malfurion away, Illidan realized that Tyrande should be his. His brother's actions had made it clear that he wasn't capable of protecting Tyrande like Illidan could, with his crazy ideas of preferring nature over good old magic, and Illidan tried to convince Tyrande to choose him. But Tyrande had already made her choice. She loved Malfurion, and she was appalled by Illidan's words. How could he speak about his brother in such a way, after everything Malfurion had done for them? Disappointed, insulted and ashamed, Illidan stepped away and he tried to make peace with Tyrande's choice. But Xavius wouldn't let him. From the shadows he whispered to Illidan dark thoughts about how life could be if Malfurion was gone. How Illidan and Tyrande could be together if perhaps something during the battle would happen to his twin.
Never. Not my brother. Never.
At first, Illidan is disgusted by his own dark thoughts, but the seeds of doubt were planted, and Xavius knew that he had Malfurion's brother. Illidan resumed command of the Moonguard, and as the battle raged on, he became more and more careless with his spells. In his recklessness, he finally slipped up and he killed his own people. Ronan saw this happen with his own eyes, and he was about to confront Illidan about this, but up in the sky, the dragons had arrived. At first, it looked like Neltharion's plan worked wonders, since the powers of the Dragon Soul decimated the Legion's lines. But then, his madness took over. He used the disc not only against the demons, but also against the Night Elves and even his fellow dragons. Using the Demon Soul, as they would now start to call it, did not come without a price, and Deathwing's madness started to show on the outside. This forced him to retreat and fix himself, while the Legion and the Night Elves, they had the pleasure of fighting over who would serve him in his new world. This attack brought chaos to the battlefield, and Tyrande found herself stuck between her allies and the enemy. Malfurion dragged her away to a safer spot, only to stand face to face with his old enemy, Xavius. During all this chaos, Ronan was commanded by Ravencrest to seize command over the Moon Guards. Illidan was killed, but they needed order at this moment, not the mayhem that he unleashed. Ronan told Illidan to step away, and of course this was extremely insulting. And to add more salt to the wound, he told Illidan to make contact with his brother. Illidan had believed that his destiny was to be together with Tyrande, but that had proven false. Then he thought that serving Ravencrest was his fate, but again he was mistaken. Now he had to figure out where exactly he belonged, but first he did what Ronan asked of him. He made contact with his twin, who was in the middle of a battle with Xavius. Xavius taunted Malfurion, told him how he had manipulated Illidan by using their little love triangle, and Malfurion was shocked by this. He had not realized that Tyrande had chosen him, and the shock was so great that for a moment he forgot about Illidan. Illidan heard Malfurion's thoughts, and the dark thoughts, his jealousy took over. Despite Tyrande about to be kidnapped by the satyrs, despite his own twin brother pleading with him to help him, Illidan disconnected himself from Malfurion's mind and left them to their fates. Tyrande would be kidnapped, despite Malfurion turning Xavius into a tree, and his grief over Tyrande unleashed his potential powers hidden deep inside. A massive torrential storm forced the Legion to back off, while Illidan, he captured one of the fell beasts, turned it into his mount, and rode off to the palace. If he didn't belong with Tyrande, if he didn't belong with Ravencrest, then perhaps his destiny could be found by allying with the Highborn, the Queen, and the Burning Legion. Illidan made his way to the palace, killing any demon that dared to stand in his way. They've never gone into details as to how Illidan got his hands on the twin blades of Asimov, but if I had to place it somewhere in the story, then this would be the moment. What we do know for certain is that Illidan, he fought with a Doomguard called Asimov, won the battle and took his blades. When Illidan finally arrived at the palace, he didn't come empty-handed. He had knowledge and he had power. First, he strengthened the portal and he made contact with Sargeras. His plan was to track the demon soul with a black dragon scale that he picked up from the battlefield, and they would use the artifact to strengthen the portal and bring Sargeras into Azeroth. News of the devastating power unleashed on the battlefield had reached even Sargeras, and he saw how this plan could work. As a reward for Illidan's loyalty, Sargeras granted him a gift. Something that will mark him as being loyal to Sargeras, while also helping him with this mission. The soft tissue was seared instantly. Illidan's screams echoed throughout the chamber, and likely well beyond the palace walls. All trace of arrogance had left his expression. There was only agony, pure and unadulterated. Illidan fell to the floor, and Sargeras told Manoroth to have Illidan sent to rest, and when he was rested, he began his task to get the demon soul. Manoroth still didn't trust Illidan, and Sargeras, he was no fool. He told Vadofen, captain of the High Guard, to join Illidan and make sure that the Night Elf fulfilled his mission. When Illidan woke up, he found himself in the presence of 3 beautiful highborn females, and one of them was Lady Vush. She was busy with washing him, and she offered him a blindfold to cover his new eyes. When Illidan tried to look at the world for the first time, he almost went mad. Bright colors and shapes attacked him, but he remembered Ronan's words, that focus is the key, so Illidan used his willpower and forced himself to see. The mark granted by Sargeras gave him new sight, and he could now see the magic in the world. He had also gained dark tattoos which amplified his powers, and he could see how powerful the Highborn around him were. Lady Vush was the most powerful among them, but she was nothing compared to Queen Azshara. Illidan always imagined that Azshara had need of her Highborn to do magic for her, but as she entered the room, he could see that he was wrong. She had not become queen just with her looks. Azshara was powerful in her own right. She'd even tried to hypnotize Illidan with her magic, as she had done with so many others before him, but Illidan saw what she was doing and he resisted. Together with Vadofen, he went on his mission to collect the demon soul, while Malfurion and the rest of the resistance, they realized that they wouldn't stand a chance unless the dragons returned to help. The dragons could not risk showing themselves in public as long as Deathwing held the demon soul, so Malfurion entered the Emerald Dream once again. In the dream, he was able to find Deathwing and the location where he was hiding the demon soul. Despite all odds, Malfurion and the rest actually managed to get their hands on the disc, but outside they were captured by Illidan and Vadofen. Illidan managed to get his hands on the disc, but he lost his brother and Brox since they were saved by Corialstras. This was just a minor victory though, since Illidan still had the demon soul and he delivered it to Sargeras. There was a bit of a debate as to who would actually wield the disc to amplify the portal, and this part was crucial for Illidan's plans. Illidan was actually a double agent, trying to save the world by turning the portal into a maelstrom, which would suck all the demons from Azeroth and stop the Legion's invasion. To do this, he would have to be the one to wield the disc, but Sargeras had other plans. He himself would create the portal, which would allow him to conquer the planets, and he told them to bring the disc to the Well of Eternity itself. For the first time, Illidan's confidence in himself and in his plan diminished slightly, but not all was lost. He could still manipulate the portal, but something unexpected happened before he had the chance. Several Highborn did not agree with Azara's choices, and they didn't believe that bringing Sargeras into our world was for the greater good. In secret, they had been working against their queen, weakening the portal, and now they had decided to break Tyrande out of her prison and join the resistance. Led by Davramar Sunstrider, they charged out of the palace, but Tyrande was picked up from her mount by a Doomguard. High in the sky, she managed to grab her sword and stab the demon, which released her from his grasp, but also had her plummeting to the ground. She would have probably died in that very moment, was it not for Illidan, who used his magic to save her life. He told her about his plans, he showed her one of the vials that he had filled with power from the well, and he poured the vast magical powers over himself.
Wait, I have an idea.
Illidan, what is in that vial? What are you doing?
What our people could not. Yes. I can feel the raw power of the Well of Eternity. It is time to end this charade!
This was strictly forbidden, not even the Highborn would have dared to do this, but Illidan saw himself better than them. He tried to manipulate the portal, tried to fulfill his plans, but a dark aura surrounded him. The old gods, who actually wanted Sargeras to enter our world so that they could escape, they guided Illidan's spell work and empowered the portal. Tyrande desperately tried to warn him, but Illidan had placed a spell on her, which prevented her from talking, so the damage was done. The portal was not reversed, instead it was amplified, and Sargeras was that much closer to set foot on land. In the meantime, the dragons they showed up again and they carried Malfurion and the others to the Well of Eternity. Broxigar sacrificed himself to buy them all some time, while Deathwing showed up and tried to reclaim his item. Like I said, the old gods wanted this to happen, so they did everything in their power to stop Deathwing from getting his paws on the disc.
It is too powerful!
How dare you touch my creation? It is mine! Mine!
Navarian! What have you done? You have doomed us all to the madness of the old gods!
Is mine!
He is lost to us, sister. He is no
The power of the soul is tearing him apart!
I will not be denied!
The old gods protect the soul.
Despite the spell nearly tearing him apart, Deathwing manages to get his paws on the disc, only to be slapped by the old gods. He loses his grip on the artifact, is sent far away, while the disc is caught by Malfurion. Malfurion then makes a mental connection with Tyrande, and when he found out that Illidan was near her, he nearly killed his brother in a moment of fury. He quickly regained control though, and soon enough Illidan and Tyrande were under attack by demons. Malfurion could sense this of course, he could see it through Tyrande's mind, but he was sitting on top of Ysera, so there was nothing he could do. Desperately, he wished to be there to help them, and before he knew it, the power of the demon soul made it so. Simultaneously, he was sitting on top of Ysera together with Illidan, while also being down on the ground fighting demons with Illidan and Tyrande. He knew that they had to do something about the portal, otherwise all would be lost, so together with Illidan they become one with the foul disc, and they try to manipulate the portal. Old gods are not easily defeated, and they whispered through the disc, trying to manipulate them. Malfurion almost fell to the whispers, but he quickly regained control, while Illidan completely surrendered to the promises of the gods. His brother Malfurion managed to snap him out of it, and together they reversed the portal, which started to suck all the demons back to the twisting nether. The great sundering which would split the land of Kalimdor was starting to happen, but Illidan was still down on the ground together with Tyrande. Malfurion urged Ysera Azora to dive down and pick them up, and they barely escaped the carnage.
Brother, a timely arrival.
Illidan! The well is out of control!
Aye. It's been twisted and turned by too many spells. The fuss we, especially you, made with the portal was too much. The same spell that sent the Burning Legion back into their foul realm now works on the well. It's devouring itself and taking its surroundings with it. Fascinating, isn't it?
Not if we're caught up in it. Why weren't you running? What have you been doing with your hand in the well?
If you've a way out of here, we should probably use it. I've tried casting myself and Tyrande out of here, but the well is too much in flux.
This way.
Queen Azora and a Highborn, they were not so lucky. They were caught by the waters, and although Azora tried to use her magic to keep the waters away, eventually they would be crushed. The old gods made contact with the queen, they offered her a deal, and they transformed them. They transformed Azora, they transformed her Highborn, they transformed Lady Vash, and they turned them into the Naga. On the mainland, the resistance had moved back all the way to Mount Hyjal. They were now led by Jared's Shadowsong, and they were trying to plan what to do next. A great lake was nearby with plenty of water to sustain them, but Illidan reached the lake first. He still had vials with water collected from the well, and he poured 3 of them into the lake to create a new Well of Eternity. The Night Elves had just fought a war, lost countless lives because of the original well, and they were not happy about this. They charged for Illidan, he lashed out against them, burned a few of them in their skin, and he nearly killed Davramar and Jared. Malfurion captured his twin, and although the Night Elves wanted to execute Illidan for his crimes, Malfurion pleaded for his life. So instead they decided to imprison him. Jared's sister, Mayev's Shadowsong, was more than willing to guard Illidan and make sure that this betrayer would never see the light of day again. The dragon aspects, they decided to turn this new Well of Eternity into a blessing, and they planted the world tree Nordrassil. They then blessed it with their own powers, they blessed the Night Elves, gave them eternal life, while also saving them from the well. Illidan told them that they were all fools, that one day they would all pray to him as if he were a god when the demons would return. The demons had had their first bite of Azeroth, and they'd surely return for a second. When that moment would arrive, they would have need of his skill and knowledge, someone who knew how the Legion worked and how to stop them. It would take 10,000 years locked away in darkness, but Illidan would be proven right. The Legion would return, but before that moment, some important events happened. The Highborn, led by Davramar's Sunstrider, they joined the resistance in the final moments of the war. Using arcane magic was made punishable by death, since the Night Elves had learned their lesson and they did not want to start another War of the Ancients. Davramar and his people, they simply couldn't deal with this. Magic was such a huge part of their life that they simply couldn't stop using it. Now they made using magic punishable by death, but they were unwilling to execute so many of their people, so instead they decided to exile the Highborn, and before they left, they stole one of Illidan's vials full of water from the Well of Eternity. Eventually, these exiles, they found a way to the Eastern Kingdoms, they started to call themselves High Elves, they built their city of Quel'Thalas, and they used the vial to create their own Well of Power, namely the Sunwell. Mayev's Shadowsong was one of the people who wanted to kill Illidan on the spot, but thanks to his brother, they decided to imprison Illidan instead. She then offered herself to guard Illidan, and Malfurion told her to collect volunteers from the Sisterhood of Elune. Those that joined Maiev, they became an organization known as the Watchers, and as their leader, Maiev was granted the title of Warden. Over time, she would award a select few who had proven themselves with the same title. Her brother Jared would one day simply leave the Night Elves behind, he would simply disappear, and he left her alone to guard Illidan for millennia. Throughout those years, the Watchers became her family, and Illidan was her main focus. Malfurion, under the teachings of Cenarius, had become an archdruid, and he'd started to teach other male Night Elves how to become a druid themselves. The Night Elves druids, including Malfurion, were bound to the Emerald Dream through the world tree Nordrassil. As part of the mystical pact, the druids agreed to sleep for centuries at a time so that their spirits could roam the infinite paths of Ysera's dreamways. Though the druids were grieved at the prospect of losing so many years of their lives to hibernation, they selfishly agreed to uphold their bargain with Ysera. They would wake up from time to time, and sometimes Malfurion would visit Illidan's prison in the hopes of turning him from his fatal path. This proved to be unsuccessful, but nonetheless he tried. With Malfurion and the other druids spending their time in the Emerald Dream, it fell to Tyrande to lead their people. Which brings us to the events in Warcraft 3. Like Illidan said, the Legion, they had returned. Kil'jaeden had sent his creation the Lich King to weaken the world and get it ready for a new invasion. The Lich King recruited Kel'Thuzad, he recruited Arthas, had Lordaeron hit by a plague, and he had Archimonde summoned to our world.
You see, Lord Archimonde, we need not fear the Night Elves. The Scourge can...
Archimonde, after 10,000 years, how is it possible?
The Legion has returned to consume this world, woman. And this time, your troublesome race will not stop us. Fools! Let her slip away! Find her, damn you! Find her and kill her.
The day we have long feared has finally come. The Burning Legion has returned. I must cross the river and warn the rest of my sisters before all is lost.
Archimonde had returned, and he set his eyes on the world tree Nordrassil to drain the tree from its powers. Not only would this weaken the Night Elves and take away their immortality, this would also boost Archimonde's powers. Tyrande realized she would need Malfurion's help. Normally it was the demigod Cenarius who would have woken the druids, but Grom Hellscream and his troops had killed Cenarius, so it fell to Tyrande to wake the druids. She claimed the Horn of Cenarius, pulled Malfurion from the dream, and together they moved to awaken the rest of the druids. Along the journey, they moved underground and they found a path leading to Illidan's prison.
Oh no. How could I have forgotten?
What is behind this door that worries you, my love?
This door leads to Illidan's prison, Tyrande. We should go. Now.
Illidan? It's been 10,000 years. Could he still be alive? We should free him, Furion. He would be the perfect ally against the undead and their demon masters.
No, Tyrande. That beast must never be set free.
But he is your brother.
Be that as it may. He is far too dangerous. I forbid it.
Only the goddess may forbid me anything. I will free Illidan whether you like it or not.
You might wonder, where's Maiev during all of this? Well, Maiev and the Watchers, they were charged with guarding Illidan, but over the years their duties spread out and they were charged with capturing more dangerous criminals. Just before these events, Maiev was called away on such a mission, and this is the reason why we don't see her guarding Illidan. Tyrande kills Illidan's guards and she sets the betrayer free.
Illidan, is that you?
Tyrande, it is your voice. After all these ages spent in darkness, your voice is like the pure light of the moon upon my mind.
The Legion has returned, Illidan. Your people have need of you once more.
Because I once cared for you, Tyrande, I will hunt down the demons. But I will never owe our people anything.
Then let us hurry back to the surface. The demon's corruption spreads with every second we waste.
10,000 years spent in darkness were unable to kill Illidan's love for Tyrande, and for her, Illidan would fight the Legion. He is now classified as a demon hunter, the first of its kind, and for some reason he still has his blades. They've never explained the details as to how Illidan got these weapons, and they've never explained why these weapons were in his cage or why the Night Elves didn't take them away from him. Nonetheless, Illidan breaks out to help Tyrande, and his brother Malfurion wasn't pleased with Tyrande's actions. He says that this betrayer might doom them all, but despite that, Illidan, he just goes out to fulfill his promise to Tyrande.
I am free after 10,000 years. Yet still my own brother thinks I am a villain. I'll show him my true power. I'll show him that the demons have no hold over me.
Are you certain of that, Demon Hunter? Are you certain your will is your own?
You reek of death, human. You'll regret approaching me.
Come then. You'll find that we're evenly matched.
Arthas the Death Knight was sent by his master Ner'zhul, also known as the Lich King, to point Illidan towards the skull of Gul'dan. Ner'zhul and Gul'dan, they used to be orcs, which is a huge story on its own, but at the end Gul'dan lost his life in search of more power, and Ner'zhul was punished by Kil'jaeden for betraying him. As punishment, Kil'jaeden turned Ner'zhul's soul into the Lich King, and he ordered him to weaken the world and get it ready for this invasion. Ner'zhul was no fool though, and he wasn't willingly working for the Legion. In secret, he schemed behind their back, and he had Arthas tell Illidan about the skull, so that Illidan could absorb its powers, take out the Dreadlord Tichondriads, and deal a severe blow to the Legion's invasion.
Now, at least the demons will no longer corrupt the forests. But if I destroy the skull and claim its powers as my own, I will become stronger than any of Archimonde's lieutenants. Yes, the power should be mine.
Now I am complete.
By absorbing the skull of Gul'dan, Illidan boosted his powers, but also transformed himself into looking more like a demon. Just like Malfurion, who became a stronger druid, he received antlers and wings and he looked more like an animal. Now that Illidan received more demonic powers, he started to look more like a demon, including horns, demon wings and even hooves. He did manage to take out Tichondrius though, he did manage to save Felwood and very likely the world, but Tyrande and Malfurion, they did not approve of his actions.
Foul demon! What have you done with my brother?
It is I, Furion. This is what I've become.
No. Illidan, how could you?
The leader of the undead has been destroyed, and the forests will heal in time.
At the cost of your soul? You are no brother of mine. Be gone from this place, and never set foot in our lands again.
So be it, brother.
Malfurion banishes his own brother from their lands, and he, together with Tyrande, they team up with Thrall and Jaina, and they take out Archimonde. It did cost them the World Tree Nordersil and the Night Elf's immortality, but they were able to stop the Legion, save the world, and in time, the tree would heal. Many months after the battle, Illidan received a visit from Kil'jaeden himself.
Illidan, in the past you have been both friend and foe to the Burning Legion. But by consuming the skull of Gul'dan, you sealed our defeat in this world. I come to offer you a second chance to serve us.
What would you have me do, Great One?
My creation, the Lich King, has betrayed me. He dared to break the pact that binds him to my will. But his spirit still lies trapped inside the frozen throne of Icecrown. Destroy it for me, and I will grant you your heart's desire.
It shall be done, Great One. It shall be done.
Ner'zhul has become such a problem for Kil'jaeden that he recruits Illidan to take him out. The Skull of Gul'dan did not only give Illidan more power, it also gave him access to Gul'dan's memories, and the last memory of Gul'dan was him trying to get his hands on more power. Specifically, the Eye of Sargeras, an item which would give Illidan enough power to destroy the Lich King from a distance. Getting to the Tomb of Sargeras and collecting it would require more manpower, so Illidan used his magic to summon the Naga from the deep. Now it's never explained how he knew about the Naga or why they answered his call. If you want to give it a reason, you could say that Illidan's new eyes allowed him to see under the sea and he could see the Naga. A possible reason why they teamed up with him is because part of the Naga who joined him were led by Lady Vash. It's possible that Lady Vash remembered him from the day that he received his eyes, or perhaps they truly believed that Illidan could conquer the world and get them a place on land. Either way, it did make for one hell of a cinematic.
Now go forth. Unleash the tides of doom upon all those who would oppose us.
Mayev's Shadow Song, she found out that Tyrande had freed Illidan and she couldn't believe that they had freed the betrayer. Don't forget that she had sacrificed millennia of her life to keep him locked away. So together with Naisha and the Wardens, Maiev resumed the hunt. Eventually, after fighting with Illidan's Nagas and even some satyrs, she found a way to the Tomb of Sargeras and she confronted Illidan.
So, Warden Shadow Song, you've made it at last. I knew you would.
You have much to pay for, Illidan. I'm taking you back to your cell.
Naivete does not suit you. When I consumed the power of Gul'dan's skull, I inherited his memories, especially those of this place, and the dark prize he coveted.
Yes, the power of Sargeras. You would claim it as your own.
That power is beyond my reach, little warden. But this, the Eye of Sargeras, contains all the power I'll need to rid this wretched world of my enemies once and for all. Ironic that you should be its first victim.
You're insane.
Isolation can do that to the mind. Now, after all the long centuries you kept me chained in darkness, it is only fitting that I bury you in turn.
As revenge to the one who kept him in prison, Illidan decided to sink the tomb back to the bottom of the sea. Maiev manages to escape the tomb with the use of her own blinking ability, but Naisha and all those that follow her inside the tomb perished that day. Outside, Illidan's Naga showed up to finish the job, and Maiev sent out a messenger to Malfurion, while she and the others tried to hold their ground. Tyrande and Malfurion, they arrived just in time to fight off the Naga and make their way to Illidan.
As the goddess wills.
Tyrande, what are you doing here? This battle does not concern you.
I was wrong to set you free, Illidan. I can see that now. You've become a monster.
Monster? Is that what you think of me? I have always cared for you, Tyrande. I sought only to prove my worthiness, my power.
Raw power is no substitute for true strength, Illidan. That is why I chose your brother over you.
Still you refuse to see me for what I truly am. You believe me to be a villain, your enemy. But soon now, you will see that our enemies are the same.
All Illidan ever tried to do was prove his worth towards Tyrande. But Tyrande doesn't fall for raw power alone. She goes as far as to call Illidan a monster, but when Tyrande faces Illidan one-on-one, he still doesn't harm her.
Brother, what are you doing here? I've come to stop you, Illidan. Instead of banishing you, I should have returned you to your cage when I had the chance. I was weak then, but no longer.
I have sworn allegiance to a new master, brother. I have a great task to perform in his service. I'm sorry, but I cannot allow you to stand in my way.
Don't worry, my love. We'll find Illidan wherever he runs. We'll find him.
Illidan escapes in a boat just before they're able to capture him, and he sets sail to the lands of Lordaeron. At this point, Malfurion decides to stay behind in the forests of Lordaeron, which have suffered greatly under the influence of the Scourge. He is going to communicate with the land, see if he can do anything for it, and that means that Maiev and Tyrande they team up and resume the pursuit of Illidan. Along their journey, they come across Kilfas Sunstrider and his caravan. Kilfas is actually a descendant from Daframar Sunstrider, and his people, the High Elves, now call themselves Blood Elves, in honor of those they lost against the Scourge and Arthas. Tyrande, despite Maiev's protest, offers to escort the caravan and protect it from the Scourge as it makes its journey to safer grounds. In return, Kilfas agrees to help them in their search for Illidan, but the Scourge forces, they prove far too powerful and they overwhelm them. Tyrande stays behind as she tries to hold the Scourge back, but the bridge that she's standing on, it crumbles and the river takes her away. Kilfas wants to go after her, try to save her, but Maiev tells him no. She's obsessed with finding the betrayer and she doesn't care what it takes or who she needs to sacrifice as long as she captures Illidan. In the forest of Lordaeron, Malfurion feels the effect that Illidan's spell has on Icecrown. The land itself screams out in turmoil, since the spell is not only going to destroy the Lich King, it would also destroy Northrend.
I see the frozen land of Northrend, the very roof of the world. The land itself is being split asunder. How can this be? What could cause such devastation?
It's working. Nothing can withstand the power of the Eye. Soon now, my master's enemies will be undone, and I will claim my just reward.
Thank you, great spirits. I know what must be done. I promise you, this treachery will not go unpunished.
Malfurion quickly makes his way to Maiev's camp, where she tells him the news about Tyrande. She tells him that Tyrande has been torn apart by the Scourge instead of just being dragged away, and this infuriates Malfurion. The three of them ride off to stop Illidan from finishing his spell.
No! The spell is not done! It is not done!
It is over, brother. Your vile schemes end here.
Illidan Stormrage, for recklessly endangering countless lives and threatening the very balance of the world, I hereby sentence you to death.
Too much blood has been spilled on your account, Illidan. Even now, I can feel the lands of Northrend reeling from the spell you cast. Imprisonment will not be enough this time.
I will execute him myself.
Fools! Can you not see? The spell we channeled was meant to strike at the undead, our common enemy. My mission was to destroy the Lich King's stronghold of Icecrown.
And no heed to the cost! Because of you, Tyrande is dead!
What? Your pardon, Lord Stormrage, but the priestess may still be alive. She was swept downriver, but it's premature to simply assume
Silence,
that...
Kale.
You told me she was torn apart. You lied to me.
The betrayer's capture was our primary concern, Shondo. I needed your help. I knew you would go to her, and we would lose our chance.
Just who is the betrayer now, woman? I must go to her immediately.
Believe me, brother. Despite all our differences, you know that I would never lead Tyrande to harm. Let me help you. My Naga can scour the river for us. Let me do this, at least.
Very well.
What? After all he's done, you would trust this traitor?
Silence! I will deal with you later. Let's go, brother.
Despite everything, Malfurion banishing him, Tyrande calling him a monster, Kil'jaeden who will surely kill him, Illidan still offers his aid to go and save Tyrande, since that's how much he loves her. His Naga managed to find Tyrande. Illidan and Malfurion they save her life, and after that it's time to say goodbye.
You risked your life for me. I don't understand.
Whatever I may be, whatever I may become in this world, know that I will always look out for you, Tyrande.
Tyrande!
I knew you would not forsake me.
I thought I'd lost you forever, my love. If not for Illidan's aid, I may well have.
We have had much strife between us, my brother. I have known only ages of hate for you. But for my part, I wish it to end. From this day forward, let there be peace between us.
You have brought much suffering to the world, Illidan. For that, you can never be forgiven. However, you saved the life of my love. For that I will let you go. But should you ever threaten my people again...
I understand, brother. Lordship over this world was never my aim. Only power. Only the magic. I've lingered here too long. I must go. By aiding you, I've betrayed my new master. If I am not careful, his wrath will be my end.
Malfurion can never forgive Illidan for all the things he has done in the past, but he is willing to let him go for saving the one he loves. Maiev shows up and she calls them fools for letting Illidan go, and she follows her prey through the portal into Outland. The next time that we would see Illidan is inside Maiev's cage. In the meantime, Kil'Thuzz and Lady Vashj, they've teamed up and they also made their way to Outland to follow the one Lady Vashj calls Master. Kil'Thuzz decides to follow her because his people, the Blood Elves, they feel a hunger for magic. This hunger exists because Arthas destroyed their Sunwell, their source of magic, and Lady Vashj tells him that Illidan might have a cure. Besides that reason, the alliance that Kil'Thuzz allied himself with, they were about to execute the prince and his people, so following Illidan was the better plan. They see that Illidan is captured by Maiev, though they set him free and they capture Maiev in the process.
You were right to come to me, Gale. I share the pain of your addiction, your hunger for magic.
Can you help us, Lord Illidan? Can you cure us?
There is no cure, young one. But there are ways to feed the hunger. Follow me and I will grant your people more magic than they can imagine.
So be it. Lord Illidan, my fellow Blood Elves and I humbly pledge ourselves to your service.
Then arise, young Kale. You shall be my right hand, and the harbinger of my wrath.
What of your plans, Master?
Illidan failed to destroy the Lich King and he knew that Kil'jaeden would not be pleased. His plan was to hide from Kil'jaeden on Outland, and while they were there, they might as well become the rulers of the planets. That position was currently in the hands of Macfarren, a powerful demon who was using portals to summon vast numbers of demons. To defeat Macfarren, they would have to disable these portals, and along the journey, they meet Akama, a broken former Draenei who wants to see Macfarren dead and take back his temple. One by one, the portals go down, and even the mighty Macfarren falls to their might, but Kil'jaeden sees all.
What is this, Vashj? Where did this storm come from?
Keep your head down, fool. Something terrible is drawing near.
Foolish little mongrel. You failed to destroy the frozen throne as I commanded. And still you thought to hide from me in this forsaken backwater. I thought you to be more cunning, Illidan.
Kil'jaeden, I was merely set back. I was attempting to bolster my forces. The Lich King will be destroyed. I promise you.
Still, these servitors you've gathered show some promise. I will give you one last chance, Illidan. Destroy the frozen throne, or face my eternal wrath.
Perhaps hiding here was not the most prudent decision. Still, the quest lies before us. Will you follow me into the cold heart of death itself?
The Naga are yours to command, Lord Illidan. Where you go, we follow.
The Blood Elves are yours as well, Master. We will drive the Scourge before us and shatter the Frozen Throne as you command.
And so the race to Icecrown is on. Arthas and Illidan both tried to reach Icecrown first, and in the end they faced off against each other. Frostmourne versus the twin blades of Azzinoth.
The Frozen Throne is mine, demon. Step aside. Leave this world and never return. If you do, I'll be waiting.
I have sworn to destroy it, Arthas. It must be done.
Never.
Arthas and Frostmourne won the battle, and Arthas was in such a hurry to reach the top of Icecrown that he left Illidan in the snow to die. Illidan didn't die though. His allies Lady Vash and Kael'thas, they dragged him back to Outland. Again, Illidan had failed his mission, so there was nothing left to do but to prepare their forces for the inevitable wrath of Kil'jaeden.
Imprisoned for 10,000 years. Banished from my own homeland. And now you dare enter my realm. You are not prepared.
It took 4 years, but Doomlord Khazak found a way to reopen the Dark Portal, and we found out what exactly Illidan had been doing with his time. The lore during the Burning Crusade was sometimes conflicting, and some parts have been retconned or never really explained, so not all of it makes a whole lot of sense, but let's take a look at the story and see how far we can go. Our adventure begins in Hellfire Peninsula, where we find out that the Pit Lord McFerrin, the same one that Illidan defeated to claim Outland, has been imprisoned and is used to create Fel Orcs. It was the blood of the Pit Lord Manoroth that empowered but also corrupted the orcs of the First Horde, and it made them slaves to the Burning Legion. The blood of McFerrin is used in a similar way, only now the orcs follow Illidan's orders, although some don't drink willingly. They're part of the so-called Fel Horde, and the war chief is Kargaf Bladefist.
Vermin! Leeches! Take my blood and choke on it!
Both the Alliance and the Horde, they take their forces, they attacked Hellfire Citadel, they take care of this so-called Fel Horde and their war chief, and they even manage to free and slay McFerrin.
The Legion will consume you all.
In Zangarmarsh, we find Lady Vash and her Naga, who are still loyal to Illidan. They're working on draining all the waters from the marsh, but the reason behind it is never truly explained.
Water is life. It has become a rare commodity here in Outland, a commodity that we alone shall control. We are the Highborn, and the time has come at last for us to retake our rightful place in the world.
Some speculate that it was simply to take control of the water, since water means life, and controlling it would give them power. Another theory is that perhaps they were storing all this water to create a new Well of Eternity, which could fit in combination with the 2 vials that Kael'thas and Lady Vash held. Each of them held one of the vials filled with water from the original Well of Eternity, so that could fit, and it could match with what was going on in Netherstorm.
Lord Illidan, I am sorry.
Since in Netherstorm, we find Kael'thas Sunstrider and his forces, and they've taken over the Tempest Keep. This dimensional ship was used by the Naru to travel to Outland, and one ship was named the Exodar, which took the Draenei from Outland to Azeroth. Kael'thas spent his time in Netherstorm draining mana directly from the twisting nether, but we would later find out that he was no longer loyal to Illidan. Illidan's defeated Icecrown had him slipping into insanity, and Kael'thas switched paymasters accordingly. He now serves Kil'jaeden himself, but that's on its own is a story for another time.
Energy. Power. My people are addicted to it. Welcome to the future.
The Naaru that travel to Outland with the Tempest Keep, they are called the Shatar and their leader is Adal. They, together with the Aldor, they took the city of Shafra back, and the Aldor are a group of holy Draenei who've been fighting with Kael'thas' forces. The Naaru are hell-bent on stopping the Burning Legion, so they would be a very powerful ally for Illidan against Kil'jaeden. Instead of allying with them though, Kael'thas sent his troops to attack Shafra city, but instead of actually fighting, his forces laid down their weapons and teamed up with Adal. Vorefal the Seer, the leader of this Blood Elf group, he had seen a vision which showed him that Adal was his race's only hope for survival. They formed the faction called the Scryers, and this was a terrible blow to Illidan's forces. You have to wonder why exactly they attacked Adal and Shafra city, why did they turn them into an enemy? And again, this has never truly been explained. Some write it off to Illidan's madness, as he saw himself as the ultimate lord of Outland. He would not want a potential foe gathering troops against him, so perhaps that's a simple reason as to why. Another theory is that Illidan never ordered Kael'thas to attack the city. As we would later find out, Kael'thas had allied himself with Kil'jaeden. What better way to weaken Illidan's position against the Legion, keep the Naaru occupied while Kael'thas served his new master, than by faking an attack and putting these two forces against each other. Like I said, we don't know for sure, but what we do know is that Adal, the Shatar, the Scryers, the Aldor, they all work together against the Legion and against Illidan. Another ally for this war was found in Shadowmoon Valley, namely the broken Draenei Akama who teamed up with Illidan during Warcraft 3.
I remember the temple as it used to be, a place of worship. I prayed within its chambers and meditated among its gardens. I was happy then, at peace. I remember too the day the orcs came. A day marked by cries of war and torrents of blood. When terrified women and children huddled in darkened corners. I led many to safety, but many more paid the ultimate price. That day, my beloved sanctuary became the Black Temple. There, the orc warlocks practiced a twisted magic that corrupted the land and nearly destroyed us all.
Do not do this, Gul'dan. Bear witness to the undeniable power of our Dark Master. He will destroy us all.
Even after the Horde's reckless sorcery tore the planet apart, my people were unable to find a lasting sanctuary. I remember the armies of demons that swept down on us like a plague. During these dark times, the one called Megtheridon made the temple his home. Then came Illidan, the one they call the Betrayer, the enemy of my enemy.
Megtheridon lures scores of hapless demons through them daily.
Then we must seal them permanently.
We helped him seal the portals of Outland and cut off the Legion's reinforcements. We fought with renewed strength, and together we reclaimed our sacred ground. I think part of me knew, even then, that the Black Temple had only traded one evil master for another. I prefer to remember the temple as it used to be. not the abomination it has become. My soul bears the burden of my misjudgment. But I have been patient. I have been waiting. And when the time is right, the betrayer will become the betrayed.
Akama is not happy with Illidan's actions and he wants to take his former temple back. And on top of that, Illidan has also decided to enslave Akama's fellow Broken. Surprisingly enough, Maya's Shadow Song still lives as a prisoner and she's guarded by Akama. Together, they conspire against Illidan, and when the time is right, they'll strike at the betrayer. This is easier said than done though, since Illidan has stripped Akama of a portion of his soul and he's holding it as a hostage within the Black Temple. This assures him that Akama and his people will remain obedient, so something will have to be done about this. A long attunement questline explained what was going on and that Akama was actually working against Illidan. In order to enter the Black Temple, we would have to get the Medallion of Karabor. Akama holds all 4 medallion fragments, but he's still missing the final piece. Seer Udalo has come to Akama in a dream to announce that he has found the final piece, but Udalo has been captured by Kilfas. We're sent to the Alcatraz in the Tempest Keep to find Udalo and see what he knows. We unfortunately arrived too late though. Udalo is long gone, he's already dead, but before he died he left a single word written on the floor. You can barely read it, but you do recognize the word Atamal, and Akama explains that fell orcs under Illidan's command have guarded an Atamal crystal known as the Heart of Fury. We kill the orcs, we take the crystal and we deliver it to Akama. Only touching the crystal makes Akama feel like he could become the Lord of Outland himself. But this was not part of his vision. He places the crystal within the medallion and he tells you to bring the restored medallion back to Adal. The next part of the questline begins in the Serpent Caverns, where the Naga found out that Seer Olem has been working against Illidan. They tried to torture him to make him talk, but he kept his mouth shut, so they planned to deliver him to Illidan himself. Illidan has the power to see through flesh into one's soul, so if that would happen, all their plans would be in jeopardy. We set him free and return to Akama, but Olem realizes that there's only one way to truly keep their secret safe.
Akama, my friend. Have you been informed? I was found out by Vash's followers. Our secret is in peril.
Olem, old friend, it is good to see that you are safe.
Illidan is looking for me. I am not safe here. None of us are.
Illidan will become suspicious. That much is for certain. We will deal with it as we always do.
Illidan will find me. And when he does, he will pry the Ash-Tongue's secret from me. Such is the power of the betrayer. No. There is only one way. My usefulness to the cause has come to an end. I must venture into the spirit world.
You cannot be serious, Olem. Your sacrifice has already been too great.
My decision is final. I will not be dissuaded. I have devoted my life to our plan. To jeopardize it now would betray all who have died for the cause long before me.
It appears your mind is set, then. We will guide you to the spirit world with as much kindness as we can.
I thank you, Akama. You honor me by allowing me this moment, surrounded by my brothers. Farewell, friend. Guide our people well.
Farewell, dear friend. We shall meet you in the next world when our duties in this one are fulfilled. Master, we have found the traitor who escaped Vash. His body lies in front of me lifeless.
You disappoint me, Akama. I wanted to question the treacherous worm myself. I'm beginning to question your allegiance, Broken.
But sire, you have misjudged my actions. I do have knowledge of someone close to you who plans to betray you. It is that dog, Kael'thas. He has aligned with Kil'jaeden and intends to replace you as Lord of Outland.
I do not sense lies in your voice, Akama. That Kael'thas would betray me does not come as a big surprise. I'm not as oblivious as some would think. That one of your own was involved with him puts your loyalties into question. Send your ash tongue into Tempest Keep and slay his most prized possession, the phoenix known as Alhar. I must know that you are not on his side. Do not think of betraying me, Broken. We both know who owns your soul.
It will be done, my lord.
After killing Alhar, there's only really one thing to do, and that's to give Akama a chance against Illidan. And to do this, Akama will need his soul. In a vision, he's shown that Chillwind's phylactery would be perfect for the job, but the only problem is that this battle has already taken place. That means that we'll have to go to the Caverns of Time, to the battle for Mount Hyjal, and we'll have to collect the phylactery.
You have won this battle, but not the war.
With the phylactery in Akama's possession, the time has come to strike at the betrayer. Akama will set Maiev free, and together with his Deathsworn, they'll attack Illidan at his doorstep.
Now is the time, Maiev. Unleash your wrath.
I have waited for this moment for years! Illidan and his lapdogs will be destroyed!
Slay all who see us. Word must not get back to Illidan.
The Naru Ze'iri also joins the battle at the Black Temple, and together with the Scryers and the Aldor, they manage to distract Illidan long enough for Akama and Maiev to infiltrate the Black Temple. Maiev disappears during that battle, so we wouldn't see her for the rest of the raid, but Akama and his Deathsworn remained close to help. Through the sewers, we made our way inside, and we got a look at what Illidan had done with the temple. During his time in Outland, Illidan apparently allied himself with the Dragonmaw clan. This clan had been collecting Netherwing eggs and riding Netherwing drakes. Netherwing dragons were not born on Draenor, they were brought there back during the second Horde invasion. Deathwing had decided that transporting his black dragon eggs to Draenor was a very good idea. This way, he had his flight on a second planet, another world to conquer, so in exchange for his help, the Horde transported eggs to Draenor. The explosion that transformed Draenor into Outland also magically transformed the eggs, turning them into Netherwing dragons. That's the background of the dragons, and they were born free, but they were now being controlled by the Dragonmaw clan, and the Nether dragon called Mordecai was not happy about this. He requested help from adventurers to infiltrate the Dragonmaw clan, work their way up from peon to the first High Lords, and along the way messing up as much as we could. At the end of the questline, we're promoted by Illidan himself, but Illidan is no fool. He instantly sees through our disguise, and he orders Overlord Morgor to deliver our carcass in pieces to his lair. But before they could take revenge, we were rescued and taken to Shafra. Surprisingly enough, Illidan has also recruited demons into his ranks, and these demons were completely loyal to Illidan. During the Green Fire questline in Mr. Pandaria, we found out that Illidan had created a fount of power within the Black Temple, similar to the power from the original Well of Eternity. We know that Illidan had taken with him a few of the flasks that he had filled with water from the original well, so it's very possible that he used one of these flasks to create this source of power. This power was such a pure energy that the demons gladly switched sides in exchange for drinking from it. By feeding upon its powers, they were also broken free from their addiction to the Legion's magic. Funny enough, Kenrafat also speculates that this is the original power source Illidan intended to offer the Blood Elves, but for some reason, he didn't let them near it. Once we defeated the Shade of Akama, and Akama restores his soul, the Ash-Tongue Deathsworn stand down and they stop attacking us. The next boss, Terran Gorefiend, is the first Death Knight ever created by Gul'dan. He was defeated by the Alliance during the second Horde invasion, but we were tricked into restoring his body, and after that he rode off and he joined Illidan in the Black Temple. It was never explained into details why he joined Illidan or why Illidan allowed him in, but I'd imagine that Illidan could use all the help he could get, and Terran followed power.
The wheel spins again.
The Shrine of Lost Souls, as I mentioned earlier, is the place where Illidan created his pool of power. I wish I could tell you more details about the boss, the Reliquary of Souls, but not much information is given. It's speculated that this was a vessel used to store souls, and since they chained it to the wall, it's speculated that they were not friendly even to their masters. Its purpose and such, sadly, is not explained.
Be careful what you wish for.
Next, we take out Gurtak Bloodboil, a so-called Dire Orc, and after that, the way to the Den of Mortal Delights opens up. This area is, in my opinion, one of the most bizarre areas ever created by Blizzard. The den is filled with blood elves, with humans, sisters of pleasure and pain, servants, concubines. It's truly a den of mortal delights. Any reason or purpose has never been given to this area, but it's not hard to imagine what this was used for. Mother Shiraz waits at the end for us, and during the battle she says things like,
So, business or pleasure? Enjoying yourselves? I wasn't finished.
The Burning Crusade, a very strange time for lore, but let's continue the story. After Mother Shiraz, we face the Illidari Council, and once they're defeated, Akama shows up again to open the door to the Betrayer. He isn't powerful enough to break the spells himself, but the spirits of Udalu and Olem, the ones who had sacrificed themselves for the cause, they show up and they help him.
Be wary, friends. The Betrayer meditates in the court just beyond.
Finally, it's time to take on Illidan and end his reign.
Akama, your duplicity is hardly surprising. I should have slaughtered you and your malformed brethren long ago.
We've come to end your reign, Illidan. My people and all of Outland shall be free.
Boldly said, but I remain unconvinced.
The time has come. The moment is at hand.
You are not prepared.
During the fight, Illidan summons his minions, so Akama leaves us alone with the Betrayer.
Is this it, mortals? Is this all the fury you can muster?
Their fury pales before mine, Illidan. We have some unsettled business between us.
Maiev, how is it even possible?
Ah, my long hunt is finally over. Today, justice will be done.
Maiev shows up near the end of the fight to end her long hunt.
It is finished. You are beaten.
You have won, Maiev. But the Huntress is nothing without the hunt. You are nothing without me.
He is right. I feel nothing. I am nothing. Farewell, champions.
The light will bless these dismal halls once again. I swear it.
Maiev feels nothing after getting her revenge and she teleports herself away. Akama swears that the temple will be restored and Illidan lies dead on the floor. So ends Illidan's reign over Outland, but his story, his legacy is not yet over. Illidan wasn't the only demon hunter in existence, and Kil'Thuz had sent 5 of his blood elves to train with Illidan. 3 of them died during training. Leophorus the Blind, he went mad and he became a boss in the Serpentine Caverns, while Varadis was so good that he became even better than his night elf teachers. Another night elf demon hunter named Altrius the Sufferer, he saw that Illidan was not who he once was. His soul had been corrupted by power, his mind been twisted by defeat. He had become what Altrius sworn to destroy, so he helped us with taking out Alandine, Ferras, Nefarel and Varadis. There are more confirmed demon hunters, and very likely that there are more unknown demon hunters, but the last one I want to mention is Feronus Sindweller. Feronux can be found in Felwood, and we're sent out to claim his head by Archdruid Navarax since Feronus has been killing druids. Feronus explains that the night elves he'd killed were not actually night elves, but they were demons in disguise. Even the Archdruid is a demon, but more importantly, he shows you what Illidan did for the forest of Felwood. How he fought through armies of demons, how he drank from the skull of Gul'dan, and how he took out the demon Tychondrius. As the reward for these actions, Illidan was banished by his own brother, and I think this shows how divided people are when it comes to Illidan. Some say that he's a misunderstood hero, some say that he's a full-fledged villain, while others worship him as the savior of Azeroth. And those that perhaps wish that they had done a different story with Illidan, or perhaps a better story with him than what they did during the Burning Crusade, they might get their wish.
Hi. Will we ever see a redemption or resurrecting of Illidan Stormrage as a character? With Malfurion and that whole storyline?
Boy, do I want to do that. I think that'd be badass. I don't think anyone at all has even suggested it or talked about it. Not to my knowledge. But I love that shit. I'm a sucker for a good redemption story, so... StarCraft.
Is Illidan still at the top of the Black Temple?
You want them back, don't you?
Could we? Could we just bring them all back? Chris, is that cool?
I wouldn't say all. Actually, we're just in a panel for the broad WoW Q&A, and someone brought up, you ever going to bring Illidan back? And so we just kind of asked, do you guys think we should bring Illidan back? Based on that response, I think it's likely. We'll have to figure it out.
This got some speculation going as to how they could do it, and during the Greenfire questline, a small line hinted at Illidan still being out there. Jubeka and Kenravad, they were on a journey together, and they reached the ruins of Verelon. Jubeka questioned why so many demons still lingered after the Legion had left. Kenravad explained that these demons were Illidan's demons, to which Jubeka asked why would that matter, since Illidan is also gone. To which Kenravad says, how should I know? So apparently the demons should have left after their masters died or when their masters went away, but they didn't. Did they get a new master, or is their old master Illidan still out there somewhere? Another theory to go with this idea is that Illidan absorbed so much demonic magic that he himself turned into a demon. Certain demons, like the Dreadlords, they cannot be killed on the mortal plane. Killing them on Azeroth simply sends them back to the Twisting Nether, so a very popular theory is that Illidan is currently somewhere out there in the Twisting Nether. This could be fighting the Legion, this could be teaming up with the Legion again, but the idea is that Illidan is still out there somewhere. These are all just theories and speculations though. For now, as far as we know, Illidan is dead and his story has ended. Which means that my videos on Illidan are also done, so thank you very much for watching everyone. I really hope you enjoyed Illidan's story, I hope I did it justice. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time guys, see ya!
Whatever I may be, whatever I may become in this world, know that I will always look out for you, Tyrande.